Okay, quick music disclaimer here. I do not own the rights to this music, which belongs to the rightful owner, who is the intoxicating mind of Dr. Frankenstein. So he made my intro and my outro, and I hope you guys enjoy. Check them out on Spotify and YouTube, and no copyright infringement is intended. Have a good day.
A clear choice of good versus evil, of right versus wrong.
Twisted Tales.
This is Christine,
This is Jessie.
and we are the hosts of the podcast Dark Mysteries.
Please come join us every Monday for
Some crazy true crime,
some spooky paranormal.
and of course, it wouldn't be complete without some weird and creepy.
You can find us on Spotify,
Of course, on Patreon.
as well as Amazon and many others.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty, welcome back to Twisted Tales, folks. Hope everybody's having a wicked time here, and, good times should be had by all, so I hope you guys keep that going. Everybody deserves good times, so my next little tale here, I guess this will be a viewer request here, because one of my viewers wanted me to do, some crazy fucking spooky cat stories, so why not, right? This is a big world, folks, and I'm sure I can find you all kinds of stories revolving cats and evil and whatever. I love doing little weird cases like this, because it's kind of pretty cool, actually. So, there's legends of cats that go back all over, like Japan, for instance. There's lots of Japanese mythology over that way. Now, the Baconiko, for instance, this is a strange apparition or supernatural entity of Japanese folklore. So this comes from the word yokai, which means suspicious or doubtful, and these are known as a class of the supernatural. Now, the reason these cats are seen as such is because of their characteristics. In general, the cats, their pupils will change. They can cause sparks when they're petted. So, people think that's weird, right? That's just static electricity, right? They can walk without making a sound. And other, nocturnal habits or whatever, running back and forth at night, everything. Speed, agility, all that crazy little stuff, right? There's a lot of Japanese here that have ideas that animalism and spirituality go hand in hand, like the entities were believed to reside in all things. Now, spirits possessed emotions and personalities, so that's kind of why they thought the cats were kind of evil spirits and shit. Now, there's one here about the Baconiko. This guy here is a fucking centuries old monster cat, so he's known to be both feared and celebrated. So he has an extremely long tail. This allows him to stand upright, and he has powers bestowed upon it to raise the dead. Now, the giant tail will allow him to walk on his hind legs, so his two legs, and he kind of acts like a human. So he has other special abilities here too, like speech metamorphosis, he can learn languages and stuff. And in some tales, it would even kill its master and take his place. And then he would just take over the household as his own. So, gotta beware of your pets, I guess. And there's even little portions here from the Edo period from 1603 to 1868. So legend here is that his origins began surrounding a feline overpopulation that was happening at that time. So the Japanese had seen cats pretty much multiply and grow over the years. So they did new tales and legends over here over the years, and some went as far back as to cut a cat's tail off so it wouldn't become a yokai creature. Now, this would happen when they were little kittens. So cats were always kept away from dead people out of fear that they'd resurrect that person and bring them back to life. Now, other nicknames given to the spirit are ghost cat or changing cat. Now, the whole process of this starts with the cat's beginning to walk on its two legs, and over the course of its life, this kind of sometimes the cat will live a domesticated life here. So it's kind of weird. The cat will come into your house. It'll be your pet for so many years, and then it'll sort of walk on its two legs, that's when you know things are going to go down. And then it just takes over your household. So it's kind of crazy here. Like, even superstitions say that a cat raised for, like, what, after 7 years here, that cats start to change. They gain powers to change form, and then they speak human languages picked up over the years. Now, their favorite form here is the form of their owners. Now, it kind of makes them really happy that they change form or whatever, I guess. So they put napkins on their head, and they sometimes dance around in cat and human form like this. So, I mean, kind of odd little thing to do, I guess, if you're walking in to visit your buddy and he's dancing around with a tissue on his head. So they can also summon fireballs, so that's pretty cool. They also use their tails as a torch, and they can go around and set fires to stuff. And they can also place certain curses upon thee. So you better beware, folks. There's other variations here, the Bacon Eco. So this guy is known as the Nakamata. So they're like the supercharged version of the Bacon Eco. So the Nakamata here, they can stand upon their hind legs. They have longer tails. And if they morph into another form, they're said to have 2 tails upon returning back to regular form. So this makes them kind of fitting for like double trouble kind of thing. They can speak human language, and they're known for creating lots of chaos. This is usually revolved around setting fires, blackmailing, or enslaving of humans. So, pretty cool. Now, these fellas here, they live in mountains. So when they take form of like large wildcats or whatever, they run in packs, so they're never seen alone. And if a person does stumble upon their place of dwelling, they're killed instantly for trespassing. So they're very sacred to like their home base or whatever, right? And legend has it here that some of the scholars have seen these creatures like lick oil from old lamps, because these used to be fueled by fish oils. So this would make their eyes shine at night, and then you could like see them standing on their hind legs, their glowing eyes. It would just kind of scare the shit out of you, right? Or I guess it would scare anybody it sees, right? Because those glowing eyes actually come from licking those lamps made with fish oil. And there's other tales here of like old Japanese legends here of Bacon Eco prostitutes of Edo. So Edo is like the former name for Tokyo. So I guess prostitutes Tokyo, we should say. But this is back in the day. So it's said here that clients of the prostitutes that fall asleep after like they're meeting up or whatever, when they awake, or they're awoken I should say, I guess, they see a beautiful woman picking at fish bones or like seafood or whatever, right? So it's kind of a crazy sight to see because it's a human body and a cat-like head. Now, other versions of this story here go that when clients wake up, they see like this shadow or whatever kind of following them. And then when they get onto the streets, the shadow's still there. So it's like really huge. So this terrifies the people or the guy or whatever, right? And the shadow toys with them. And then all of a sudden, they're pounced on. And the creature kills them. So this is kind of crazy, right? I mean, like, who would expect that, I guess, right? And when that client usually wakes up to see that cat-headed lady, like, they're kind of hunched over when they're, like, eating or whatever. Now, this dates back to the 1700s, because back then it wasn't actually acceptable for prostitutes to eat in front of their customers, so they hunched over and ate while their clients slept. So these guys here, like, they're also known to be able to train and tame wolves. So I guess they teach them to attack travelers too that wander far from home. So it's kind of crazy, like they fucking attack people with shadows, and they have cat heads, and yeah, no, it's pretty crazy little tales here that you find in the world, and that's pretty cool. Next up, we'll have the Black Cat of Killikee. So this one here is like a little bit of Irish folklore. So this one revolves around the Killikee house in Dublin. Now this is a large estate up in the Rathfarnham area, and this was built in 1806 by Mr. Luke White. So Luke White had purchased the land back in 1800, and he developed this bad boy in 1806. Now this was a 2-story, 36-room place, totally huge, right? Now around this area was a legendary creature known as the Black Cat of Killikee. Now, a couple bought this place back in the day, so they started like renovating this whole thing, fixing it up or whatever. So they hired some workers to do this, and things started going rather smoothly. This was until the workers started hearing strange sounds and weird things began to happen. So they'd see a large black cat in the hallways. It would appear out of nowhere. It would make himself known, and then he would disappear, totally scaring the workers. Now, some of the workers would go up to the rooms. They'd lock the door behind them, and they would finish up their project in that room. And then all of a sudden, they had a feeling like they were being watched, and boom, there was the giant cat in the room, staring right back at them, kind of like staring right through the worker, kind of felt. And nothing could have gotten into the rooms because the door was locked. At least, not something of that size anyway. Now, the workers had told the owners about the whole ordeal, and they refused to work until something was done about the ghost cat. So the couple contacted the church, and an exorcism was performed. So they took all the necessary measures to repent the evil from the house, at least for some time anyway. Now, the exorcism had drove out the ghostly cat, but sometime after, there were a group of drama actors here, I guess. Kind of like playwrights or something, right? So they decided to get drunk and hold a seance. And they did this when they were drunk, and I guess they had summoned the spirit of the cat back. And ever since then, the cat's been seen around. And not long after the seance here, all the hauntings had started all over again. So I guess, if you're a drama actor, I guess just don't hold any seances in some crazy houses. I guess you'll be fine, right? And there's lots of crazy stories here that surround cats. I mean, some believe cats are minions that belong to Lucifer. Some believe the cats are just cats. And some believe the cats are just good-natured animals. So, I mean, there's always going to be good stories, bad stories, everything in between. But they're all tales. And what is it here? 2007, there was a man up in Himachal Pradesh village. So this story revolves around a guy getting scratched and bitten by a random cat. So this cat was infected with rabies, and this caused the man to die from rabies. Because rabies can cause death if one doesn't receive the medical care needed, because the virus moves to the central nervous system. The progressive and the fatal inflammation of all this, like the brain, the spinal cord, and all this develops. So it causes anxiety, confusion, because the disease progresses. The person may experience delirium. They can also hallucinate. Usually, this can go on for a 2-day to 10-day period. And less than 20 cases of human survival for clinical rabies have been documented. So, I mean, there's not many cases that people survive this. Well, back to it here, I guess. The guy ended up, dying, whatever. And it shot the whole place all to hell with panic. Because people responded to this, like the villagers that set out to look for the cat and kill it. But since they couldn't figure out which one it was, they ended up killing all the cats in the village. And like I said, there's good tales, bad tales, and this one's a bad tale. Now the next up here we have the Bastet. So this guy here is like a feline of Egyptian mythology, a goddess, if you will. So this one here is thought to be a bringer of good health. So she protected home from evil spirits. She was known to help the women and children of the area if they got sick. And there's other legendary creatures here too, like the Hombre Gato, I guess. This one's notorious for South American folklore. So this here possesses both feline and human features. Hangs around in rural spots up in Argentina. So it's kind of like a werewolf-like creature that come out at night and they prey on people and animals. So he's pretty much a fucking cat man, I guess. Well, I guess speaking of cat men while we're on this, I have a little story on that actually. There's a man called Gil Perez. So he killed 2 Israeli sisters. Piera Sarusi, she was 63, and Lily Pereg, she was 54. So Fira here, she was strangled with a rope, and Lily was shot 3 times in the head. So Gil Pereg here, he had a mental illness, and this brought on a complete mental breakdown, and this also went undiagnosed. So the one woman here, Fiera, that was his mother, and the other was his aunt, Lily. So the two women were traveling in Argentina at the time of their murders. So they were found under a bunch of debris in Gil's home. This was in the city of Mendoza back in 2019. So before his breakdown, he was a very good student actually. He was with, he had his undergraduate there, his master's degree from Technion. This was Israel Institute of Technology. So 2006 here. Gil's behavior started to change drastically. Well, went from like a really smart student to like a little bit out of the ordinary. He ended up in financial dire straits there because he was in online gambling and everything. So he got into a little bit of debt there, and then he left Argentina for a short time to escape his little bit of debt. And his mom helped him financially, like she supported him throughout his time away and whatever. And he ended up living like a homeless person over time. He actually had like a small house, and he had about a dozen cats. So he was dubbed the Catman of Argentina. And during his trial, it was recorded here that in the courtroom, he did like meowing. Like he meowed in response to like all the prosecutor's questions, I guess. So anything that she asked him, he was just like, meow. And, she's like, well, why did you commit this crime? Meow. So that's all he did was meow the whole time. And he was kicked out of court. So he ended up getting a life sentence over time anyway. So, like, all these crimes that he did, it required him to serve at least 35 years in prison when it was all said and done. So this was all decided by 12 citizens in the court. And this thing blew up. Like, it totally went international, right? Now, during his life, he was even a, Israeli army veteran, too, and he lived in, Mendoza there since, 2007? So, yeah, the two bodies ended up being found in the back of his home. This was, on Julio Argentino Roca Street. So, there was blood from the victims that were found on his clothes. DNA was found in his house. And this was all found by like a trained police dog. So, January 14th, 2019, Gil, he had reported to authorities about the disappearance of his mom and aunt. Kind of crazy, right? Because he kind of claimed that he had last seen them the previous Saturday. And he would speak to like media outlets about their disappearance. And it's almost as if like he was afraid to leave his home because he gave off like a couple weird comments, shit like that, right? He also did interviews with the local media. And even with his illness that was coming on and everything, like, he did all these things, like, kind of makes you think, like, if he was actually thinking different or deranged or whatever, right? Maybe he just did this to free himself from suspicion or something like that, right? You never know what a person's capable of. But maybe he did this under, like, his whole mental sickness, and he didn't remember doing it. And then he was like, oh, well, I seen my mother yesterday. Where the hell were they, right? And then maybe he doesn't remember doing it. Who knows? Yeah, it's just weird how this guy was just... He would have been caught anyway, right? I mean, there was help of, like, security cameras there that police found. Because they had all three of them on camera out walking around. They caught a bus up on Laval Street. And then they headed to their son's house. This was up near where a cemetery was, so it was in line with everything. So eventually the cops would have went knocking on this guy's door, but from that moment on, there was no more signs of camera footage of the sisters, so they went in and they never came out. Now, the pair were found buried 2 feet deep. They were covered with like stones and brick and shit, and they had been pierced with metal rods in the skull, the abdomen, and the fucking anus. So yeah, just totally brutal. Now, this guy lived in a room with no toilet, no windows, and he slept on a mattress with like rubbish and cans and cats. And one of the officers remembers that the smell of that house was worse than the bodies that they found decomposing. And now I guess the guy's in jail and he gets the help he needs by doctors or whatever, so he gets to spend the rest of his life in jail. And it's just crazy for like a wicked smart university student. The guy became a soldier, and now he turned out to be a homeless, murdering cat man. And that right there, folks, is just a tale on its own, right? Next tale here, we'll talk about Oscar the Cat, or I guess as he's known as Unsinkable Sam. So he was a ship cat during World War II, serving with the Kriegsmarine and the Royal Navy. So the Kriegsmarine was the Navy of Nazi Germany from 1935 to 1945. The Kriegsmarine was one of 3 official branches, along with the Heer, Luftwaffe, and the Wehrmacht, German armed forces from 1935 to 1945. So this cat here survived 3 sinking ships. Oscar was born before 1941, and he died 1955 in Belfast, North Ireland. So he was dubbed originally the name of Oscar by the crew of the British destroyer, the HMS Cossack, because they had rescued him from the sea after the sinking of the Bismarck. So the cat was owned by the crewman of the German battleship, and he had been on board on May 18th, 1941. So these guys set sail for Operation Rheinübung, and this was actually the Bismarck's only mission. So this operation here had aimed to block Allied shipping to the United Kingdom, and the Bismarck was sunk after a naval battle on May 27th of 41, and out of a crew of over 21,000, only 115 people survived, and hours later, Oscar was found floating on a board in the ocean. So the cat was picked up by the HMS Cossack, and he was named Oscar. So the cat began to serve on board the Cossack, which is a tribal class destroyer. So a tribal class was a class of destroyers built for the Royal Navy, Royal Canadian Navy, and the Royal Australian Navy during World War II. So the cat and crew enjoyed a few months. They were chilling, hanging out, playing cards, whatever. So the ships ended up carrying on like convoy escort missions in the Mediterranean Sea and the North Atlantic Ocean. So October 24th, 1941, the destroyer was escorting a convoy from Gibraltar to Great Britain. So they had become severely damaged by a torpedo from a German submarine boat, the U-563. So this U-boat was a member of 9 wolf packs and was sunk by Allied aircrafts in the Bay of Biscay in 1943 on May 31st. So the explosion that was made by the U-boat had blown off 1/3 of the forward section of the ship, killing 159 of the crew, but somehow Oscar the Cat survived this incident and was brought to the shores of Gibraltar. So the Cossack ended up sinking to the west of Gibraltar, and the cat was now deemed Unsinkable Sam because he survived the sinking of 2 warships now. So he's a pretty big hero. So the cat now made his rounds around the sea, and he was adopted by the crew of the HMS Ark Royal. Now this is a ship that survived several near misses in battle. So this gained a reputation as the lucky ship. But lady luck never fucking lasts. So upon returning from Malta on November 14th, 1941, it was torpedoed by a U-boat, U-81. And Unsinkable Samuel was now clinging to a floating plank. He was unharmed, and after this, they picked him up, and he landed a job on land. He was chasing mice in the building of the Governor General of Gibraltar, and over time he was sent back to the United Kingdom, and he remained there at the home of a sailor up in Belfast until he passed away in 1955. And that, my friends, is the tale of Unsinkable Sam. So I guess he had maybe more than 9 lives. Even in old legends here, like, it says the cats were the only creatures on earth not made by God at the time of creation. So it's said here that at the time around Noah's Ark, when the world was covered with water, the ark became infested with rats. The rats ate all the food, and Noah then prayed for a miracle to help feed the animals because he had to keep them alive. And poof, a pair of cats had come to life. So they came out of the mouths of a lion and a lioness, and they ended up getting all the rats gone, and upon returning to land, the cats walked ahead of the pack, and they were highly thought of. And cats were always kind of highly thought of, right? Like, they've been on, like, drawings on cave walls and everything, right? People have beliefs that, like, cats in Egypt, they were also great goddesses, everything like that. Even in folklore, like, we've discussed shape-shifting cats. Some are viewed as troublemakers. Others, they have kind of tales that are told of a less sinister nature, right? So, the white cat here, this one's going to be a French tale. So it's a little less sinister or whatever. And it's said here that this one's about 3 sons of the king. So the king had sent his 3 sons out on a bunch of side quests and shit, because he didn't want them taking over the throne. So the youngest son ended up meeting up with a white cat along his travels. So he soon discovers that this whole place here is inhabited by talking cats. So the white cat is their queen. He invites the guy over for dinner. Everybody enjoys their company, whatever, right? So this continues on. And the young prince decides to stay here for some time, because he's very happy with the way things are going. So the cat princess and the prince, they talk, they get to know each other, everything like that. So one night, the cat had a weird little request here. She asked the prince to cut her head off. And I know I didn't see that coming up either, right? So, but out of respect, the prince does just this, so he obeys her command. So, after doing so, just like something out of Cinderella here, the cat had turned into a human princess. So, by him doing that one deed, he had broken a spell that was cast upon her castle, and they lived happily ever after. And I guess, there's good tales, there's bad tales here, right? And this one here is actually part of Holly Black's novel, The White Cat. So check that out. I'll post a link to that as well. And lastly, folks, I guess since that was a happy tale, I guess we should probably go out on a bad note, I guess. No? Yeah? Maybe so? Yeah, let's do that. So, even, like, cats, like, they'll try to, like, smother you in your sleep. That's a little known tale here, I guess. So a guy named Luis Navarro, he was having problems breathing there when he slept. He had no idea why. So he ended up setting up a camera to record himself while he slept. So the video had shown his cat moving closer and closer to his face, and then he began sitting directly on his face, which blocked off that guy's nose and mouth. So he got to seeing this, and then he made a post on Twitter about it. And then some of the other members began to tell their stories. One guy explained that the cat can, when he lays on your chest, he feels your pulse, and then he moves up or whatever, right? So the pulse kind of calms them, I guess, or maybe that the cat was trying to stop his snoring. And there's even tales from like way back that cats would like smother babies and stuff. Like this goes back to the 17th century here. This is kind of around the time of the witch trials. So cats will be known to fall asleep over babies' faces, in turn killing the child. Most likely not intentional, but this does happen. It could just be an old wives' tale, whatever. I mean, it's known that cats can smell the milk off a baby's breath and whatnot, too. There's also jealousy over a newborn. I mean, if affection is taken away from the cat will act out, right? But it's most likely not even a thing to fear, right? But it's now something that you can think of. So, with that, folks, a tale is a tale, and a cat is a cat. And I bid thee farewell. So, enjoy your upcoming weekend, folks. I love you guys. Take her easy.
Twisted Tales.